Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to be going over the updated Marvel Contest of Champions offense tier list for August 2018. Now, in this last month, I think we've had 3 characters that have really solidified their place in the God tier. 3 characters that have just been doing amazing. So we've got a few tier shuffles about in comparison to the previous list. And also we have the introduction of 2 brand new characters, Ghost and also Red Skull. And Ghost has just been absolutely phenomenal, and Red Skull has been fairly average, but we're going to talk about both of those characters in a second after we do the standard tier list disclaimer. So again, this tier list and Marvel Contest of Champions is a very, very complicated game. There are so many different scenarios, nodes, matchups, characters, modes of gameplay, and it's impossible for any tier list to say that one character is always better than another character. So treat this tier list for a very rough guide to the best champions in the game. Exactly what it is, just a very rough guide to what I believe are some of the best performing champions in the game at the moment. And if you are ever wondering whether or not to upgrade a certain character over another certain character, the best thing to do is always ask yourself, what am I trying to do next in the game, and then look up some gameplay relevant to that and figure out, who might be the best of the 2 characters based off gameplay that you see on YouTube, because there is so much stuff out there. There are tons of people. I think there's probably about 500 Marvel Contest of Champions YouTube channels out there. A lot of people are uploading top tier Alliance War gameplay, tons of Labyrinth of Legends stuff, tons of Act 5 stuff. So yeah, the point is there is a lot of gameplay out, and this is a very complicated game. So yeah, if you want to find out anything specific to one character or a couple of characters, definitely look up specific videos on those characters. But anyway, with that standard disclaimer aside, we're going to get cracking on some of the tier list updates and additions. So first off, we're going to talk about the 2 brand new characters. So Ghost, I've added to the God tier with the requirement that she relies on the unique synergy of both Ant-Man and the Wasp to be a God tier character. In that circumstance, she gains 3 things via the unique synergy. The first one is 15% additional attack for every single buff on her. The second one is plus 25% base attack at the start of the fight, and the third one is unblockable specials, and all 3 of these things just take Ghost to an absolutely ridiculous level. She's having some crazy Realm of Legends kills, some crazy Labyrinth kills, and doing very, very well in kind of top tiers of Alliance War at the moment from some of the gameplay I've seen, because the damage is just so insanely massive. But without the synergy, she's still what I would classify as a high demigod champion. She has so much utility with her phasing, and there is such a high skill cap on the character as well. I would say she is in kind of the top 10 most difficult champions to play very, very well, but she can get rid of debuffs constantly for her phasing, and when awakened, immediately will shrug off like poison and bleed nodes, and there's a lot of very, very interesting stuff you can do with Ghost. So I think, in the right scenario, she's entirely what I classify as God tier. She's a great option for stuff like Labyrinth of Legends and Act 5, and a lot of, very, very interesting matchups and uses for Ghost. But again, the character has one of the highest skill caps in the game. She's very, very difficult to play incredibly well. But if you're looking for some Ghost gameplay, check out Panda Man Pete's channel, because he has some really, really dank stuff on there. And then we also have the second new character who just came out this weekend. Now, I've watched a little bit of Red Skull gameplay, and I've got the character myself as a 4-star. I've ranked him up to rank 3, level 30. I've also been watching Crystal Opening Whale's gameplay of his 5-star rank 3 Red Skull that's been awakened. And I've just been trying to think about like potential uses of Red Skull. And I think when his awakened ability kicks in, like, he can gain some power off that. But in terms of how the character is generally speaking, he does a lot of stuff on a very average level. Like, he's got a very average heal block. He's got some really good block proficiency, actually, and that's probably the biggest strength of the character. He's got like a nice little stun on his special 1, and also has power drain mechanics for his armor up, and also special 3. But in comparison to some of the top power drain options like magic, I would say that he's just severely lacking in terms of the practicality of his power control. So Red Skull, like, he's got a few things that he can do, but I don't think he really does anything kind of to a good enough level that's going to make him a viable character for endgame stuff in Marvel Contest of Champions. But if you were like a brand new player and you got him as like one of your first 4-star characters, 5-star characters, he's still going to be better and more useful than a lot of the other characters in the game. I just don't think that he's anything special, pretty much. So I was a little bit disappointed in Red Skull, but, you know, there is a possibility that he could be moved up to low demigod if there is something substantially that I'm missing about his awakened ability and a way to play the character, but it just seems a lot of his stuff is just very, very impractical for the most part, and I wish he was a little bit better, but yeah, he's got some stuff he can do, but I just don't think, I just can't see any, like, matchups or scenarios where Red Skull is the best option at the moment, but a better Captain America Classic, I would say, is a good way of viewing him. Just a Captain America Classic with a little bit more utility on him, so not too bad, a tier above that, and it lands in at the Amazing. So yeah, that's it for the brand new champions, and then we have the two new additional characters that have made it up to God tier, which is Corvus Glaive and Domino. So Corvus Glaive is a character I was always really buzzed about from the initial release, but I was a little bit skeptical where he was going to fit in the game, because Corvus is a character, he's so insane if you can finish a fight and finish a matchup within 20 glaive charges, which guarantee crits on his glaive attacks. So it's pretty much finishing the majority of fights before, you know, your special 2, essentially speaking. And what we have seen in the last month and a bit, especially when it comes to the top tier of Alliance War, is people going full Corvus, like going crazy on this character, getting him as a 5-star or 6-star, and taking him all the way up to the maximum power level at the moment. And it's a case where the top tier Alliance War, everybody is running boosts, so having that like 30% additional attack on Corvus, plus like a 15% or 20% one, and like a power start boost as well, and also the cosmic power recoup boost, just means that you can completely face roll fights and just absolutely dominate them in top tier Alliance War. So Corvus has just been such an insane champion for that. Added with his synergy of Proxima, people are bringing Proxima as well as Nebula, but it mainly doing a lot of the fights with Corvus, but he can also counter evade and resist bleed at the start of the fight, and I've heard he's quite good for biohazard as well, but there is just some absolutely ridiculous tier 1 Corvus Glaive gameplay out there, and he's just absolutely wiping the floor at the moment. And yeah, people are using him in the monthly event quest as well to just decimate, you know, the Red Skull and Adaptoid bosses in like 20 hits this month. But Corvus is really a character, for him to be God tier, you know, he needs to be at an equal level to the content that you're fighting, if that makes sense. You need to get everything down, ideally before the special 2, or just with the special 2. So yeah, he does need to be quite stacked up to really see kind of the full power of Corvus there. But again, there is some insane stuff out there if you want to have a look. And next up, in terms of the God tier, we have Domino. So Domino has actually made it into quite a few Alliance War attack teams. A lot of people are using her as a defender still, but for certain paths and certain matchups and nodes, she's just absolutely ridiculous for the amount of ramp damage that she can do. It mainly comes from her special free. Her special free bleed is absolutely nuts. If you see it in terms of Labyrinth of Legends fights, some players, if they're using boost and stuff like Suicide Masteries, are getting like 35k to 40k bleeds. There is an insane amount of damage even without what is it, Suicides or Boost. In some of my runs that I've done with my maxed out Domino, the bleed damage goes up to like 24, 26k every second, and it's a very long bleed as well on the special free that you can refresh with the special one. The damage is just absolutely there. Also, the synergy with Massacre as well makes it so much easier to deal with a lot of nodes. You can do extended combos as well, completely ignore Limber. We've seen some full one-shot Maestro kills in Labyrinth of Legends from Domino, so Domino is very much seeming like one of the top 5 options, generally speaking, for Labyrinth of Legends at the moment. But yeah, the damage is just there. She also has the utility of providing a passive ability accuracy reduction and also ability accuracy reduction chance whenever the opponent gets unlucky as well. And also counters Medusa by having like a second shot in her first medium attack and completely get rid of Medusa's auto block. So it's a really good kind of big Medusa slayer at the moment, and Medusa is still kind of one of the biggest annoyances and problems, generally speaking, for people in Alliance War. So yeah, Domino has just been absolutely wiping the floor recently, and I think she's got a very well-deserved spot in the God tier of the game, because she seems like one of the most effective options to deal with a lot of the biggest pain in the asses at the moment. And also the heavy attack synergy with both Red Skull and Massacre makes her heavy attack absolutely ridiculous, and for certain fights where heavy attack countering is something you want to bring into the mix, it can just be very powerful for spamming those heavy attacks there. And also that is another thing about Ghost, her heavy attacks, you get Fury, so again a really great heavy attack countering champion, and heavy attack countering champions are very much needed in in the, what is it, Iron Man Infinity War meta that we're seeing. We're just seeing so many of them all over the place, so a lot of value there. And then also we've made 4 additional adjustments. I've moved Black Panther Civil War up to the good tier with the requirement on unique synergy, because the Killmonger synergy actually gives him quite a bit more attack. It's like a 30, I think it's a 30% fury for 15 seconds every time he parries. So, you know, if you're playing him in a standard matchup, you're usually going to have like 2 to 3 of those stacks, which substantially boost his damage and make him a little bit better to play in terms of the damage output there. So a bit more enjoyable, and I think he deserves to move up a little bit for that. Then we also have Ant-Man, who's moved up to the amazing tier with a requirement of the unique synergy. So yeah, he benefits from the 25% base attack with the Ghost and Wasp synergy, and also has the synergy with Ghost. For every debuff on the opponent, he's getting 15% increased attack, and also an additional synergy with, I believe it's Wasp on this one. His Awakened ability, whenever it triggers, will give him 15% attack. I think it's for 8 seconds. So yeah, his Awakened ability and debuffs and the synergy itself just give him even more attack there. So Ant-Man is still very much lacking, generally speaking, on utility, but that's definitely moved him up a substantial amount damage-wise there. He might even make it up to low demigod, but I want to see some more Ant-Man gameplay and do a bit more testing before we decide on that one, but I think he is at the very least amazing tier now. Then we've also moved Hela as well up to high demigod. I've seen some really, really good stuff from Hela in the last couple of months, actually, in terms of her damage output, and I think she surpasses the damage output of any of the low demigod tier characters. So yeah, there's some really, really good stuff with Hela, but you have to be a very, very good player, and you know, it does have quite a high skill cap on playing the character, but I've seen some dank stuff, man, and hopefully we can showcase some of that on the YouTube channel in the what is it, the coming weeks as well. And then finally, I decided to move Loki up. Loki was okay tier, but I've moved him up to good tier. I have seen a little bit of Medusa fighting in some medium tier alliance wars with Loki. However, I'm just, you know, it's the case of, like, my opinion's still the same on Loki. Like, he's an alright champion when you can steal buffs. However, there are just a lot better characters that handle pretty much every single matchup in the game more effectively than Loki, and I think a lot of the other Mystic characters are much, much stronger and more reliable for those kind of matchups. And especially speaking of Medusas, like, Domino is just so much more effective than Loki, comparatively speaking, as well. But Loki does definitely have a place when it comes to, like, the 5.4 Final Ultron, and maybe in the future there might be more fights where his buff steal is quite relevant. But aside from that, just generally speaking in terms of the gold tier champions and who's who I still think is quite up there, there are a few characters that I'm starting to question whether or not they should be moved down a tier. Like Iceman is kind of one of those characters. He's always been very good. He can do a lot. He's got triple immunities. He's got evade counter. He can soak up special freeze with his ice armor as well. But I feel like Ghost and Corvus are mainly making him a little bit redundant when it comes to Alliance War. I'm not really seeing too much of a top tier use for Iceman at the moment. I still think he's a very, very good character, but I'm kind of just questioning and debating with myself whether or not he's still worthy of the god tier. But he's a great character to pick up. He's still very, very useful for a lot of, like, Act 5 clearing and general game progression. Archangel is still generally the best option if you can poison and bleed the opponent. He's just got the damage, the ability accuracy reduction. There's the right matchup that he just absolutely rinses. I think the problem with Archangel when it comes to a lot of newer and more competitive stuff is that a lot of characters tend to have one immunity, like a bleed or poison immunity. You know, we're seeing that with some of the big problems right now, like Infinity War Iron Man or Medusa, where one is bleed immune, one's poison immune. But I don't know, I think with Heimdall especially coming in, Archangel might have a bit of a use if Heimdall is a bit of a pain in the ass Alliance War defender. But I still think Heimdall being able to be power controlled magic is maybe going to be our gal for that fight, but we're going to have to see. And then we have, yeah, Domino, who we talked about earlier. Ghost Rider still part of the Trinity. The Trinity is still very, very strong and still very, very good for a lot of the paths in Alliance War and can get it done. Dr. Voodoo is just still, I love him, man, for the ability accuracy reduction, the regeneration, the power control. He's a very versatile, very flexible champion and is great for a lot of progression content, for just keep on, you know, being able to sustain, being able to keep going, and also deal with, like, a wide variety of different matchups quite effectively. Gwenpool still has the damage, she still has the ability accuracy reduction, and there's a lot of you know, uses that Gwenpool comes up for. She's still great for Labyrinth of Legends. She was really, really good for that Infinity Thanos boss like a couple of months ago as well. But Gwenpool is one of those that, you know, I look at a bit and I'm like, could she be potentially on the way out? So yeah, I don't know. I'm keeping a very close eye on Gwenpool, but, you know, at the very least, she'd just be moved to a high demigod tier champion. But yeah, Gwenpool and Iceman, I think are kind of the main two there. I think Blade is still, you know, just the absolute king when it comes to fighting a lot of mystic characters. And also villains, generally speaking, but there tend to be less and less favorable matchups coming in the game for Blade. But he's very good for fighting Ghost, though, although Ghost is probably a terrible Alliance War defender. Way too easy to fight in the last monthly event quest. So yeah, I don't know. We're going to have to keep a bit of a close eye on Blade, but I don't know. Red Skull is also a villain, so maybe he's going to be quite good for fighting Red Skull on defense, but I don't think we're going to see too much Red Skull on defense, to be honest. Then we've also got Medusa, who's great for the armor shatter. And just such a generally good character for like disabling and countering robots. A ton of damage there. Still one of the best Labyrinth options out there, and yeah, it's just a pain in the ass as well to if you ever ranked up for Alliance War defense. And then we have Hyperion, we have what is it, great for heavy attack countering, Infinity War Iron Man, Medusas. He's absolutely rinsing through those in the moment. So yeah, Hyperion's still a pretty top option when it comes to a lot of lanes and paths in tier 1 Alliance War. However, I do believe, just specifically talking about Alliance War, Corvus is showing up Hyperion and Medusa just because he's so rapid, he's so effective, that he tends to be, at the moment, the top Alliance War option for the majority of fights, I would say, on the provision that you have him fully ranked up and boosted. Then we've got Spider-Man Stark, who is still a very heavy-hitting champion when it comes to Alliance War. Definitely up there, great for Labyrinth, great for Act 5, just an all-around god-tier character, so much utility. It's got the taunt going on, the emergency power drain, the stun, shock against robots as well, part of the Trinity with Blade and Ghost Rider. The Trinity is still very strong, I would say. And then we got Star-Lord as well, who has some phenomenal damage ramp up, is still one of the best characters for Labyrinth of Legends. I feel like recently I'm seeing just less and less Star-Lord about, but you know, he's still a really good character. He still has one of the highest damage output potentials in the game when ramped up. However, on certain bleed fights, Domino is kind of beating his ass a little bit when it comes to Labyrinth of Legends. But Domino is a little bit more, random than Star-Lord, I would say, for consistently getting the good damage there. So yeah, Star-Lord, he's got the big old damage, and his awakened ability is still incredibly powerful. But I'm just wondering if, you know, a god tier character maybe needs a little bit more at the moment. So that's one of the things I've been questioning. Then we've also got Ghost, who we talked about, and Void. Void is an insane character for heal reversal, power gain reversal, an MVP when it comes to a lot of the big annoying regeneration nodes, and Void is just generally one of those characters that can get through pretty much any fight when it comes to Alliance War. Like, he's generally a really good option for a lot of kind of masochism stuff. Apart from that insane like masochism cornered node, that one's just the biggest pain in the ass. I think it's mainly the Corvuses and Starks that are slaughtering that one at the moment. Maybe Ghost could get through that one as well. But yeah, Void is just great for the heal reversal, man. No other character blocks healing and reverses healing in kind of the sustainable and effective way that Void does. And yeah, he's just got a massive health pool. It's super fun to play, but that's pretty much it. Then we're just going to very quickly gloss over the high demigods. Sabretooth, ton of damage. Wolverine, regeneration. Scarlet Witch, roulette wheel, quite fun to play. Bit of regeneration, all sorts of stuff you can get. Morningstar, still quite a good option in for very skilled players in top tier Alliance War for fighting Medusas. Bleed immunity, ton of stuff she can do, a bit of regeneration there. Killmonger, mainly evade countering, but also potentially tanking special freeze as well. He's got some alright damage going on. Taskmaster, incredibly high skill cap champion, got some block proficiency, got some really good block proficiency and really good ability accuracy reduction, and some pretty decent damage if you can play him well. But again, this character has one of the highest skill caps in the game, I would say. Massacre, tons of damage, tons of, heal block potential as well. If you can play very aggressively with the Incinerate, but again, very high skill cap, and you need to have like matchups where you can have a good level of tempo and just keep in the mix and just keep getting your bat ignited and beating the crap out of the enemy. Proxima, just a ton of ramp up damage there, can parry projectiles, very good for Infinity War Iron Man matchups and all sorts of Yeah, just very annoying opponents that generally can't be parried. Hello just for that massive damage. Dr. Octopus for infinite heal block and also power lock potential. Vision for insane power control there. Iron Man Infinity War, just an absolute Swiss Army knife of utility. Sentinel has some dope damage. He's a double immunities character. He's very fun to play once you can ramp him up to 100 analysis. Quake is the ultimate skill heavy attack, holding heavy champion. Very good for, what is it, matchups where you don't need to make contact with your opponent and you can stun them. Luke Cage is so much fun to play, so much damage, can tank special freeze, get some really good stun chains on him as well. Very valuable for certain fights in this month's event. Captain America Infinity War having some great value in this month's event, especially against that Hydra Adaptoid for removing Unstoppable. So yeah, he's doing fantastic work. Gladiator Hulk, great for map 6. Also very good for fighting like Magic's, Mephistos, Domino's, Dormammu's with his kind of passive face me ability. And then we got Red Hulk, who just has yeah, some pretty beefy damage there. Very good for like certain bosses. Like he's very popular when a lot of people were placing Morningstar as the final boss in Alliance War. So yeah, Red Hulk, he's got some good damage, a little bit of regen as well if you need it. Poison immune character. But again, there's so much detail and so many characters, man. And the tier list is just absolutely insane now. But yes, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you enjoyed today's tier list update video. If you did, feel free to smash that like button. That'd be greatly appreciated. Apart from that, thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.